Okay, so this is how I break it down. You've got cultural Muslims, moderate Muslims, Islamists, and jihadists. These are the bad guys. We just saw exactly who they are, no need for any introduction. These ones are also bad guys. They are not directly violent, but strategically and in the long term, they're more destructive. They're the ones who adamantly vow to overrun and destroy the West. They repeatedly say this very thing themselves. It's not controversial to say this. They could not be clearer about it. These ones are the primary forging point of these ones. That's where they are recruited from. They openly celebrate them and fund them and enable them. So are we all in agreement then that these ones need to get the fuck out? Like, yes? Okay, good. Alright, I'm glad we sorted that. Well, the number one asset we have in countering these ones are these ones. Currently, however, these ones are also the number one enabler of these ones, because these ones use their numbers for support, even when they don't actually have that support. This happens because these ones fear these ones. These ones oppress these ones, and it's really hard for such oppression to be overturned by the oppressed themselves. Many of you, particularly on the right, will just say we just need to get rid of all of them, but I think you need to reconsider that. Firstly, there is a panoply of logistical, optical, fiscal, and ethical factors which just makes that outcome untenable. It's possible, but untenable. Not to mention the myriad of negative consequences and potential liabilities that await us down the track from that kind of move. I'm fine with these guys personally, so to me it's not worth the effort, and I actually think we get more from having them here. But I know many of you will disagree with that and still wish that still feel that it's necessary to get rid of everyone. But hear me out. Let's say we're playing this as a video game and we remove all emotional and ideological influences on this. We're taking a purely sociopathic and Machiavellian approach. You're in a war with another country, so you recruit, support, and enable partisans from their own in order to disrupt and jam up their operations. This is basically strategy 1.1. These ones know that strategy very well because they aggressively employ it against us. They're not even hiding it. These ones use the guise of these ones to employ these ones to counter these ones. Doing that allows them to defeat all. So, to expose, disrupt, undermine, and counter these ones, we have no better asset than these ones. You will find no better Overwatch, you will acquire no better effect on target than in the welcoming, supporting, and enabling of them. So, now that we've established that one, we will start this one.
Islamic can have soldiers.
We are not going anywhere. This is our country. We are here to stay. We are settlers. You are committed to place a white flag with England written on it without the crucifix.
No, I will not be naming all of my videos my left-leaning take on. I just couldn't think of a better, more catchy name. For those who haven't seen my Nick Fuentes video, I am a left-leaning Australian who has been living reasonably estranged from the left-wing groups for about a decade or so. No, this does not make me right-wing, as much as several people in my last video tried to plant me as. I forged my own opinions on things over time, and through optimization, they calcify to become my values. And those values, whenever I take a political test, they squarely land within the left quadrants. And that's the thing with values, they don't change. Okay, so maybe your labeling of things might change here and there, but my values do not change. That's what integrity is. So if I don't fit into your convenient little groups and meet your checklists, I really don't care. It's irrelevant to me because my values are not changing. If I am left, and that's it. So this video was naturally triggered by the Hanukkah shootings on Bondi Beach. Bondi, it's pronounced Bondi. This video was triggered by that, but the sentiments have been building for a while. It's been building in a lot of people for a while. This is not an ideological video. I'm not going to try and counter Islam or something. There are plenty of Christians and non-Muslims making videos doing that very thing. Now, full disclosure, being Western, obviously I have a preference. If I'm forced to only associate with one or the other, 10 times out of 10 I'm choosing the Christians. They're just simply the closest to and most accommodating to my chosen lifestyle. So we've already decided that these ones have to go. But to do that effectively, we need to consider the following two groups. The first are the moderate Muslims. These are Muslims who walk the Islam walk, but who are not buying into the cause for aggressive jihad. They devote to jihad, but it'll be like a jihad to eat less carbs or something. They are not actively trying to undermine Western society or impose their values upon us. They're not like praying in the middle of the street and blocking traffic. They're not marching through malls and shouting Allahu Akbar and so on, you know. They're not obnoxious pricks, is basically what I'm saying. I am aware there is some ambiguity on how moderate is moderate. A lot of people imply that there are actually no moderate Muslims, and that's just due to the nature of the Quran itself. I beg to differ, and I will show you examples in a minute, but I'm aware that that is a thing. The second and largest group, despite what they will tell you, are the cultural Muslims. These are atheists, agnostics, or at least non-practicing Muslims who still participate in the greater culture. It's the way I join my own family for Christmas. You could call me a cultural Christian. A good example is that Ahmed Al-Ahmed guy. Now, there was some speculation he was Christian at some point, but I think that was bullshit. I'm not sure about that, but he has lived in Australia for 20 years. He owns a fruit shop on Bondi, and he has perfectly assimilated into the culture, regardless of his practices. I think we're all pretty much in agreement that we're cool with that guy sticking around. Like, he's done more for this country and the West than I have, I'll say that much. I know some people want to maintain racial purity, but that's not a priority to me. That kind of thing is also very much a case where you need to really define where you draw that line. It always tends to collapse down into semantics and infighting. We see that same thing happening with the left, the far left, where they're always just shit testing each other into oblivion. So for the most part, we're good with these ones, and I myself am at least good with moderate Muslims as well. Very often, these moderate Muslims will look and sound a lot like the Islamists on the surface, but it's actually quite easy to define them.
I am a Muslim, I'm an Arab, and today I stand with the Jewish community in Australia. What happened was not a misunderstanding, it was anti-Semitism, it was terrorism. This kind of hate grows when extremists is allowed space and incitement is ignored.
We have a policy in Saudi Arabia of zero tolerance for extremists. If somebody is an imam in a mosque and is preaching hate and violence, they get dismissed.
Mother-in-law, grandmother, auntie, whoever, if there's somebody else, then it's better for them, inshallah. Or slave girl. Nowadays we can start to return to some of the many other ahkam in Islam which have been absent for many years. Because now we have khilafah, we can have slave girls in the khilafah.
This isn't about faith, it's about power and pressure. The question for the West isn't whether this is happening, it's whether you're willing to admit that influence doesn't always look illegal until it's too late. Because that's how systems get captured without a single law being broken.
About the alleged individuals involved and their motivations. These are the alleged actions of those who have aligned themselves with a terrorist organisation, not a religion. The New South Wales...
The primary barrier for Western countries in being able to effectively define one group from the other, and in turn being able to deal with this very simple yet critical problem are our governments. But Western governments reflect and respond to the culture of the people, so you really need to look there first. When it comes to most issues, most people are overly simplistic. The right have been overly simplistic and gradually bigoted by saying all Muslims are violent, when evidently this is not true. But the left, however, then replies by being equally overly simplistic and gradually bigoted by saying all Muslims are peaceful, also evidently not true. The left-wing narrative currently heavily weighs the media and the current standing government, at least in Australia and Britain. So the public narrative has become quite bigoted as well. Their sole priority for the last decade has been to undermine white men. That is not a right-wing thing to say. It certainly used to be, but it's not anymore because it's just evident. They're pretty much blatant at this point. We used to live in a world where race was becoming less and less of a factor. It was still around, of course, and quite defined in places, but it was actively getting better. I remember there being actual legitimate Nazis, as in for real ones, with skinheads in the boots and waving the flag and everything. That was mostly down in Melbourne, I think it was, but it was reducing, even there. It was notably getting better. Then, though, race just, for some reason, had to flood back in as this top priority, and it was the left that did it. And because of that, the right then reignited their own reply. This has fucked us. Now, even in such extremes as the Bondi shooting, the number one priority is not public safety, but in diverting optics of the threat towards more politically convenient targets. They do all they can to divert attention away from the association with the Muslim because they're bigots who think all Muslims are the same. They do this to protect their own standing and their own image, not to protect either Muslims or Australians. So, to them now, this one is the same as this one, and this one is the same as this one.
Are we the baddies?
So in the fallout of this latest shooting, what have they done? They've warned us about right-wing extremism. Now, if you're talking about Islamists, who are the most extreme right-wing fascists on the fucking planet, well then yeah, I actually agree with you. But that's not who they're warning us about, are they? No, they're talking about Timbo. Because if only Timbo hadn't have worn that Australian flag to Australia Day, then Fucknut Jr. over there wouldn't have felt so fearful and had to have lashed out. Now, yes, we can be honest here, Timbo is a bit of a dick. We can acknowledge, indeed, that he is a mad cunt, but he does tend to get a bit carried away, like he gets himself put on a few lists. What he doesn't do is shoot up a fucking beach because he read a book one day. Yeah, I know everybody wants me to look at him, but I'm giving Timbo a pass here. You could say I stand with fucking Timbo. The government and media, however, are apparently just fine with Timbo being the one central focus of this whole thing, having him receive all the vitriol and maybe lose his job or whatever. That way they can avoid implicating Muslims and being labelled a bigot, which they absolutely completely fucking are. To them, you must think of Muslims entirely as a monolith. They are these non-thinking, gentle little cherubs who they only want to be friends, and if you try to link this attack to them in any way, then you're just an Islamophobe. No, I'm just going to go ahead and think that it had something to do with Islam, dude, because that's literally why they put the fucking flag in the car. Like, that's the thing. Fucknut and Fucknut Jr. had to do that because they knew exactly how it was going to go. They knew the government and media were going to do whatever they could to downplay the link with Islam, so they put a flag in the car to make it undeniable. But even then it didn't work, because here comes Ahmed Al-Ahmed, of all people. Like, it wasn't a Muslim named Charles Johnson. It couldn't have been worse. It could only have been worse if it had been called Muhammad Al-Muhammad. But of all the things to happen, after all that planning, maintaining secret links with ISIS, young fuck went to the Philippines, had all this training, they got guns, and in Australia, which is not an easy thing to do, and they even got a flag. And after all that, A guy named Ahmed Al-Ahmed comes in and just swoops the whole Muslim tag, undermining their whole operation. Like, you gotta feel sorry for jihadists, man. Like, they just cannot get any respect. What more do they need to do to show us they are our enemy?
There's no need for that. We're on the same side, bro. No, we're not. Yes, we are, bro.
I'm a political refugee from Iran. I've been to prison, I've been under Islamic law, and I know how it starts and I know how it ends. And it always starts with for some reason, unity of left and Islamists, and it scares me. So I came here to be free. I chose Canada as my second home to live in a free country. And I'm beginning to get really scared, because the way things are going, it looks like they're going to basically appease Islamists just to not raise any ruckus or something. They're just going to appease them step by step, and they're not going to stop. They see it as a sign of weakness, so they're going to take more and more, and I'm against that. I believe Canada should be free, and freedom of speech is something that nobody can take away from people.
So we've got this one group over here saying that Islam is a religion of peace. We've got this other one over here saying it's a religion of war. I've forged my own opinions on where I stand with that, but I'm not going to give those opinions because in that lies my point. Every individual employs it differently. We all know what a pen is for, until you watch John Wick and see him use it completely differently. It is a tool, and its use is entirely dependent upon the user. So I think we can also all agree that this simplicity thing is not helping us at all, and we need to move on from that. And this will be especially useful because through that we now remove the Islamists' most effective buffer. That simplicity is precisely what they count on in order to incubate. With the right being suppressed and the left turning a blind eye to the blatant obvious, this encourages an ostracization of the Islamic community as a whole. It creates an echo chamber, and within echo chambers, more radical ideas amplify. This forces the culturals into hiding and allows moderates to be suppressed, the Islamists to seize control, and the jihadists a sanctuary within which they are able to embolden. In that echo chamber, the moderates also more directly emulate the Islamists, or at least that's how it seems. Some of you older viewers might remember that stereotype of the Catholic schoolgirl, how she'd appear all buttoned up and she'd leave the house all squared away, but then the moment she got to the actual party that she was going to, she would completely let loose and go wild. All the morals just immediately go out the window because it's all just a facade that she has been playing. Next time you go to a family-owned kebab shop, take a second look at the oldest daughter. Look at that rose to her lipstick and the way she sort of looks around in this devious, mischievous sort of way. That's the truth right there. And that is a lot more prevalent than they think it is. All you Gen Z incel groypers who subbed to me from the last video, kebab shops. Jasmines, they're monsters. And cultural Muslims. That group is so much bigger than anyone knows. Far bigger than any census will reveal. But so many have to keep themselves suppressed and act the part of the devoted in order to avoid retribution. You know, the classic story of the gay kid who has to hide and play the part lest he be ostracized from the greater community. Times that by about 1 million. That's how many cultural Muslims there are. The Islamists will boast on and on about all these new converts they're attracting. They're always going on about the size and the growth of Islam. But it's actually really easy to convert. Like, you only need to recite a phrase and that's it. What they don't mention is how hardly any of them last more than a few months. Meanwhile, their birds, come on, don't fuck with me. Meanwhile, their own children no longer follow the doctrine. They just remain hidden in plain sight because their community are active oppressors. Even if their family themselves aren't violent, the community's greater conservatism can be so rigid and the costs of honesty so dire that they can do nothing but play along.
Good morning. Today, I speak not only on behalf of the Global Imams Council, but also as an Australian citizen. The Global Imams Council condemns in the strongest, clearest, and most unambiguous terms the barbaric terrorist attack at Bondi Beach in Sydney, Australia, where innocent Jewish families were celebrating Hanukkah, the festival of lights. I have just spoken with families of the victims, extending solidarity and unity in the face of an act of terror that has shaken the world.
Hell yeah, son. Let's fucking go. Let's celebrate. Let's party.
This is Imam Tawhidi, handle the Imam of Peace. This guy is exactly the kind of guy that we need to support, promote, and enable. Build this guy's mosque to the frickin' sky for all I care. Because it's guys like this who are the key to countering guys like this. This guy's Islam is a religion of peace. This guy's Islam can go fuck itself. Now, there is a tangent here that is too complex to go into in this video in any detail, but I do have to acknowledge it. I have a pretty balanced left-right audience, and I know a lot of the rights will bring this up in the comments, so I better do it. Regardless of Islam or the immigrant culture itself, there is a notable negative effect on allowing too rapid a dilution of a country's culture with one of an more abstract variety. It's pretty simple. You have a host culture, you rush in too many of another culture, they create communities within, do not assimilate or adopt the values of that host culture, and it destroys that culture. There is a phrase that is all too often thrown around, and that is, diversity is our strength. This is used as essentially a blank check to justify damn near everything. On my last video, I had a notion of disagreements to where I made the claim that the West is not inherently Christian. Haven't changed my view on that, by the way. But essentially, in my view, the soul of the West is indeed diversity. Diversity of opinions. Diversity of perspectives, diversity of ideas, that diversity. There are definitely other cultures around from whom we can learn such mutually beneficial perspectives, but there are plenty who straight out shit on that idea from whom we can't learn a damn thing. So the phrase, diversity is our strength, I believe is true, but holy shit are there some caveats to that. Here is a very basic example, and I've gotten this from YouTuber Paul Joseph Watson. All across the West, there are these things called honesty boxes. It's where local producers bring their product to an unmanned space and people leave what they feel that product is worth. Just recently, from the Netherlands, footage came out of this foreign immigrant couple arriving and discovering this honesty box. They then proceed to completely clean it out and leave nothing in return. Now, a knee-jerk reaction from some people might be that white Westerners steal too, and sure, of course, that is true. We indeed have bad people. But there is a reason why such a concept as an honesty box persists in this culture today. It's because in this culture it can work, and does work. That particular honesty box has lasted just fine in that town up until that point. The operators might be thinking twice about that now. Just that tiny little decision from that foreign couple who do not share our values, just that it being filmed and strewn across the Western world, that has potentially damaged our culture just that little bit more. If they were Japanese immigrants, I seriously doubt there would have been a problem there. If there were these two Muslims here, I doubt that as well. Look at the monumental amount of sexual harassment that European women in particular are suffering right now, solely because the people being flooded in by the thousands are from cultures who absolutely fucking hate women. And many of the women of those cultures also absolutely fucking hate women. Very often it is the mothers of extreme cultures who do the most enforcing. Are you telling me that bringing in more people who absolutely fucking hate women is a strength? I disagree.
We are on our way to steal your jobs, benefits and houses.
We are so close to the UK now. We're all so excited for our adventure. I really hope someone welcomes me into their home.
As you can see, several boats have now landed on our shores. Local men can be seen assisting some of the incoming Swedish migrants as they disembark.
Now this is an invasion I can fully get behind. What made you come down here today?
Normally I'm against this kind of thing, but today I fully support integration.
Now, there is something that needs to be considered here. As kind and friendly as most moderate Muslims may be, they do dress differently, and they speak different, and they act different and follow different values to ours. Regardless of how safe they are, the more you bring into the West, the more even they dilute the culture. Now, you may be fine with this. I don't consider it too much of a problem myself, provided particular values are upheld, but I know many others won't be fine with that. This is why this discussion must be allowed to happen, and these new hate speech laws are the exact opposite direction of where we need to go. So, is diversity our strength? The answer is, it really fucking depends. We cannot afford to be toddlers about this and just fall to emotionally driven blanket statements. We absolutely must employ nuance. Because Sydney is now cancelling New Year's events. I'm pretty sure it's not the main big bridge event. It's just an isolated Bondi event which has been cancelled. But those of you non-Australians, you need to understand, Sydney is basically the capital of the world for New Year's, and now they are cancelling New Year's events. That is unacceptable. Now, I understand that in this particular case, it's too soon to risk a large-scale event on Bondi. It's too much of a security risk, too many potential combatants are still active within our borders. I get it, we can take the hit on this one. But this is the last fucking time that happens. Because next year, this ain't going to be a problem no more. The fucks have got to go. And no, I'm not talking only restricting future immigration. No, I'm talking about taking everyone in this video, rolling them up into a shipping container, and just sending them that way. I don't give a fuck where they land. These boomer Karens and their male equivalents in politics and media, they try so adamantly to shut down any such level of discussion. But they're bigots, so who gives a shit what they say? They clearly do not have the country's interests at heart. They have had their chance to manage things, and they have fucked it up so utterly, and have done so solely upon their own self-righteousness, indulgence, and self-grandeur. And no Liberal Party, I am not only talking about Labour.
Australia and the world have witnessed some of the biggest anti-war protests ever seen.
Biggest protests in Australia's history at that time. Do not go into the Iraq War. John Howard, George Bush's little man of steel, OG spineless fiddle of Mossad and the CIA, he fell completely to their ego stroke psyop and just took us in anyway. He just so really wanted to be part of that gang. And now, 25 years later, we've got this shit.
Any conflict brings hate. And hate anyway, no matter where it is, even in this great country of ours here. Any conflict against Muslims will bring anti-Muslim sentiment throughout the community.
Well done, guys. I, for one, am not forgetting that. And now, 15 Australians have died. In Australia. It's time to cut the shit. Left-wingers, Muslims are human beings. There are good ones and there are bad. I know you know this, I'm being a dick. But you also know the bullshit rhetoric that gets thrown around and founds and filters at the public discourse. You know how afraid people are to criticize this shit, and it's the left wing who makes it that way. Not anymore. Islamophobia? Fuck off. That word no longer exists. It is perfectly acceptable to have a phobia of a 16th Australian getting shot in the name of ideological bullshit. Now I get it. You want to welcome the good people because you yourself are a good person. You are kind, genuine, and caring. I 100% agree with you on this. Cultural Muslims, moderate Muslims, completely welcome. But we can now all agree the others have got to go. And I mean now. The decision happens now. The cultural and moderate Muslims themselves suffer the most from the fundamentalists' actions. You will only be helping them by defining their oppressors. Are you against right-wing authoritarianism, or are you not? Well, there it is. Clear as day, out in the open, in its purest form. Here is your left-wing past clearing you of all accusations of racism. Let's fucking go. Right-wingers. Muslims are human beings. There are good ones and there are bad ones. Again, I'm fucking around. Most of you are fine with the cultural and the moderates because you're perfectly sensible people. In fact, you know the difference between them probably better than the left do because ideologically, the moderate Muslims are probably more closer to you. But even you on the far right who just want them all out, it really does pay to differentiate. Taking that purely Machiavellian approach, the moderate and the cultural Muslims are the best key to countering the threat. The enemy of my enemy is my friend. The more you vocalize to them that they face no threat from you, the more enabled and encouraged they will be in actioning that counter to the extremist doctrines. They will be more encouraged to promote the perspectives like those of Imam Tawhidi and seed that message instead out throughout their communities. That is a nightmare for the jihadists. Even from a geostrategic standpoint, even if you do get all Muslims out of the West, you still want the moderate Muslims enabled to have control of those regions. You do not want another Iran. The Persians are probably the closest natural cultural allies the West have in the Middle East, yet for 40 years now we've missed out on that relationship, that opportunity for trade and that cooperation. We don't need more of that. I know a lot of people say they don't care about what happens outside their borders, but what happens outside the borders cares a lot about you. We just saw that comedy festival which just happened in Riyadh, and I know a lot of people were very highly critical about that because of the Saudi the human rights abuses. They were accusing the comedians of selling out. But no, that is exactly the kind of place where we need that kind of event to happen. That is a cultural seed that is taking firm hold, and it is the cultural and moderate Muslims who are the vessels for that. Remember, what is it they say was the most lethal weapon of the Cold War? Blue jeans and rock and roll. You want those human rights abuses to stop? That's how it happens. Support and encourage the cultural and the moderate Muslims here. They transfer our values out there. The Islamists and jihadists are so focused and adamant about destroying the West, they're not even aware of how their own foundations are collapsing. Just look at the Arab Peninsula. Dubai, Bahrain, Saudi Arabia, home of Mecca itself. More and more of the hijab is coming off. There are parties, exploration, innovation, and personal expression. More and more cultural Muslims are revealing themselves, and it is exponential. You right-wingers in Sydney, London, Brussels, Dearborn, if you want to hit at the Islamists in your local neighbourhoods, there's your answer. Supporting and enabling the one thing they fear the most. You hate the left wing? Well, so do they. How about sending your not-so-friendly neighbours a nice gift-wrapped package of feminism? Tell their daughters they're a girl boss and watch the guys lose their fucking minds. The London police sure as hell won't be arresting you for that one. Could even be a nice little operation for 4chan maybe, like create an AI Pakistani girl band like K-pop Demon Hunters, but do it seriously. Research it, plan it, talk with Pakistanis and work out what would actually hit for real with Pakistani girls. Saturate it with phrases like girl power, you don't need a man, career first, 10 creative ways we do our hair. Make it catchy, make music videos, spread them throughout urban centres of London and Karachi, release the Jasmine Gin and watch it all fall to hell.
I'm done with this!
You only need to glance at the culture to know the Islamists do not respect their left-wing allies at all. They're using them as puppets. But they respect the right. They respect them and they fear them, because they know there is nothing more cataclysmic than to switch Western men to fight mode. If they go head-to-head with the right, they get their asses fucking stomped, like that, just like they have had on perpetual repeat for the last 1,000 years. They've got a win rate of like 6. The West, about 350,000. But for a moment there, they found the Western men's Achilles heel, Western women. As much as they despise Western women and wish to conquer and suppress them, they know they are the key buffer between themselves and the true threat. But you just crossed the line. You just switched on Australians. You hit Australia. I know We seem more laid back and a pushover, but go and read a history book, dipshit. You're fucked. Worst of all, you've now got eyes from the left looking at you too. I am making it my mission to get the left out of this boomer gooner bullshit larp fest they've been lost to for the last decade and back on track where they need to be. With that, your last buffer is gone. A lot of people on the left need to refamiliarize themselves with what the West actually is. Enough with this calling racism bullshit when criticizing Islam. It is possible to be racist against Arabs, Turks, Bengali and so on. Races, ethnicities. But Muslim is not an ethnicity. Just like with Christianity, Islam is an ideological framework that is interpreted differently by each individual who adopts it. It is a group of ideas, words on a page, not a sentient entity containing blood to be spilled. You can kick the shit out of an ideology, drag it through the dirt, tear it to pieces all you like, and if that is shocking to you, welcome to the West. That is how we roll. Tearing our own shit to pieces is exactly how we developed so far beyond expectations. We got to the goddamn moon because at no point were we ever shy about it. You come to the West and nothing is off the table. Everything gets shit tested. That's the point. No one gets a free pass. If you came to the West for the economic opportunities, how do you think we got those? If you came for the academic pedigree, came from the same place. Those big metal boxes you drive and fly around in, how do you think it is that they work so well? You want to protest some country's invasion and genocide of another? Go ahead, because that's the West. In the West, everyone's bullshit gets put on the table. That's the deal, that's the price, that's the benefit, and that's the priority. You are made nothing but stronger for it. Left-wingers, you feel outraged with what's going on in Gaza. You want to protest and speak up for these children and innocents. But that is not these fucks. Those fucks use those very children as human shields in order to antagonize the Zionist radicals in order to attack them as false flags. They are half the problem over there, and they are now a serious problem over here. The stronger they become here, the less you can help over there. Do not feel for a second that you are betraying any level of left-wing values by countering them. I am of the left, and there are no compromises or even questions within my values in treating those fucks like the enemies they so adamantly wish to be. We are protecting and supporting the innocent and the oppressed from the oppressor. That is OG left-wing to the fucking core. Let the boomer Karens rattle on with whatever shit they like. We will reset our perspective to the actual threats. The mission is simple. We define, secure, and support these ones, and clear a path for our right-wing allies to them. Dear Islamists, I've got some bad news for you. Men are back. The left is back. The West is back. So what the fuck you gonna do now? Go ahead, hit us again, see what happens. You wanna screw with the West? Good luck. We are so much better at this than you will ever be. Chant your stupid little jihadi phrases all you want. You can point that shaky little finger up to the sky and assure yourself of that connection. I don't blame you. Reality is about to become a serious bitch. I'll tell you what this means. 350,000 plus 1. Takbir, Deus vult, pro Occidente.